Minister Louis Farrakhan. Who is he and why is he saying all those things? Ask him on our next Donahue. We haven't had this many, I'm not sure what the mission of this chap is standing back here, but I don't want him angry at me. I think they get the job because they look mean. Well, guess who's here? This is a man who will tell you that he is perhaps not the most popular personality in America, but let the record show that he's drawing larger crowds. And should we be surprised? Less than 10% of black Americans voted for President Reagan in the last election. Should we be surprised that people of color feel perhaps more than they have in a long time a certain alienation from mainstream America? Nobody's here to say that they could ever have claimed total participation, but it does seem to be worse now. Could that explain the recent increase in the number of people who are listening to the Minister Louis Farrakhan? Minister Farrakhan is, as you know, with the Nation of Islam and has made an awful lot of people angry. He spends half his life now trying to explain what he said. Is that purposeful? What did he say about the Jews? And did he say something positive about Hitler? And what's going on here? We'll ask him that question and others and give you an opportunity to do the same. We are in New York City with the Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, where do we begin with Minister Farrakhan? What kind of do we have a shot at an integrated America where we really do get rid of these fears? Do you think we have a chance at that? Have you given up on that?
If there's justice in America for blacks, then blacks will be contented with America. If there's injustice, continued injustice and oppression, blacks will continue this disaffection with the United States.
But my reading of your position is, I have the feeling that you've really given this up as a possibility, and that you're looking for a black nation with black ownership of business and black control of financial destiny of the membership.
Not at all. Separation is an ultimate solution. It is an extreme solution. However, if we can get freedom, justice, and equality within the social, political, and economic order of the United States, that would be better.
So you continue to hold out the, can a white person be a member of the Nation of Islam? Your nation.
There are white Muslims, yes.
There are. Well, you're smiling. It hasn't always been that way. Okay, all right. If that's the case, then why are you going out of your way to... You invited Gaddafi to speak to your assembly in Chicago on closed-circuit television?
Yes.
And he encouraged the 400,000 black Americans who serve in the armed forces of the United States to revolt and fight the oppressor, and he'd help them, finance them with munitions?
The logic...
is this the way we get to our promised land of... integrated equality for all?
Of course, the majority of blacks reject that suggestion.
And does Minister Farrakhan reject it?
Of course I do. However, the logic of Mr. Gaddafi appears to be the logic of the Reagan administration, for $14 million are being asked for the Nicaraguans or to overthrow the government.
If we can support Contras for the purpose of overthrowing Nicaragua, why should we be so indignant that Gaddafi would tell American blacks to support the overthrow of the American racist system? Is that your position? Okay, let's go over this once again. Here's what you said here's what you said. This is not so funny. Here was your statement regarding, this is perceived by most people who saw this and heard about it and read about it as a Jewish slur. Here's what you said. May we see that, David?
Nation called Israel never have had any peace in 40 years, and she will never have any peace, because there can be no peace structured on injustice, thievery, lying, and deceit, and using the name of God to shield your better religion under his holy and righteous name.
Yeah. Now, you're probably getting tired of explaining this. Did you say gutter religion or dirty religion?
First, let me say this, that your religion is not just what you profess. Your religion is what you practice. Jesus told his disciples, be ye doers of the word, not just hearers of the word. Lying, thievery, injustice, and murder is unclean. And using that to shield your, what I call dirty practice under God's name, is practicing dirty religion.
Would you say the same thing to Gaddafi?
I would say that any person that violates principles of righteousness and decency is practicing dirty religion.
Does he? Here's a man who exports terrorism. Here's a man that the president of Egypt has condemned as an exporter of a man Now you're going to give us a long speech about how do we know in the white press, and maybe you do not seem. All right.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
Terrorism, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder.
That's what Menachem Begin says. That's what the people who fought for Israel say.
Menachem Begin was a terrorist, and now he's accepted as a great statesman.
Well, okay, but my point is, who decides what terrorism is acceptable? You?
I'm not that judge.
But you certainly brought your judgment to Israel in this.
I said exactly that which is truth. You cannot refute what I've said. Israel has not had any peace in 40 years, and it does not look as though she will have peace, because there is no peace structured on injustice.
You know, it is a fact. Israel has a lap full of problems, as does America. There's no doubt about it. You know, it's going to be real hard to argue with you regarding the grievances. And I certainly think it's a mistake to get into a contest about whose atrocity is the worst atrocity. Nevertheless, are you here to say that Jews are not entitled to any homeland anywhere?
For 40 years, the Jewish state has existed, and they've had problems defining what is a Jew. Once we can define what is a Jew, then we can talk about a Jewish homeland. What is the definition of a Jew?
And what is the definition of a member of a Muslim? Now, nobody's, okay. Certainly like most religions, you're fractured yourself.
Jew is not a race.
But what's your point?
My point is, I can define what a Muslim is. A Muslim is one who submits to do the will of God. What is a Jew?
Yes, but then from then on we get all kinds of. Just give me a second here. Defining a Muslim would, you'd get into an argument, for example, with Wallace D. Muhammad on the issue of defining a Muslim. So my point is,
I think we both would agree. Wallace D. Muhammad would agree with me that a Muslim is one who submits to do the will of God.
Okay. You called Hitler a great man, and now you're going to tell us that you didn't mean great as necessarily positive. I mean, for a man who... you did say that, didn't you? You're not going to deny you said Hitler was a great...
Let's put that in context.
Okay.
Some Jewish leaders likened me to a black Hitler.
They did.
I took umbrage at that remark.
That's true.
I said the only way you can compare me with Hitler is that Hitler rose Germany up from the ashes. We are trying to rise black people up from the ashes, but don't compare me with your wicked killers. That's what I said.
So Hitler may have killed 6 million Jews, but his trains ran on time. Is that your point?
Hitler is no friend of black people. If Hitler had his way, he would have killed all black people also.
All right, so you condemn Hitler.
I could not be laudatory of Hitler. I just made a statement of fact.
Yeah, but... No, you can't call a person great and then step forward after the fact and claim that that's not that you were misunderstood.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Donahue, but the Bible calls Babylon great, but Babylon wasn't good.
Okay, all right.
Pharaoh was great, but he wasn't good.
There's something...
Hitler is a great and consequential man, but not a good man. Yes. That's all.
I'll tell you this. Let me say this. Here's the... Incidentally, does God talk to you, Minister Farrakhan? Does God talk to you?
Do you mean, do I hear God in
Yes.
my ear? No, of course not.
Are you a prophet?
No, I'm not.
So you are then... So you really don't have a whole... You don't have any special divine stuff that I don't have, right?
I don't know. That's
I mean...
debatable.
Well, I think that's a very important concession. I appreciate very much the humility with which you confess to being a mortal human being, subject to error like all of us. And yet you do have you have a messianic posture about you. You do, if you are honest to say you're not a prophet, but you present at the podium as one. Sort of a follower of Muhammad. And that's the problem. You have every right to practice your religion. I don't want to sound patronizing, but once we don't allow people to do that, we really have a bigger problem than we can possibly imagine. But you do not have the right to claim absolute truth, and that's what I hear from you. You disagree with Minister Farrakhan. You disagree with God. That's pretty arrogant thing to do.
Mr. Swaggart and other white theologians take a very strong theological position.
Yes, they do.
You don't question their right to believe in the correctness of their vision.
But I certainly question their right to impose it on other people.
I believe in the correctness of the position of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I stand on that position.
Okay. You were born Louis Eugene Walcott in Boston, the Roxbury section of Boston. You married once, no scandal there. 9 children.
Yes.
The youngest of whom live with you, in what I'm told is a predominantly white suburb. Is that so?
It's integrated.
But I assume you're proud of the fact that you live in a community that I assume you feel is the forerunner of what you would like to see all America become. Is that so?
I live in a nice community, and I'm proud to live there. I had very much difficulty in living in that community,
Yeah.
but that has been overcome.
Yeah. You really are. Your timing is perfect. Your timing is perfect. If it wasn't you, it'd be somebody else. We have ourselves a whole bunch of problems here. We have an administration that appears to have been going out of its way to alienate itself from your brothers and sisters. We have a rise, as NBC News viewers might have noticed last night on the news. The Klan is back in bigger and bigger numbers. So we shouldn't be surprised that you're drawing big crowds, Minister Farrakhan. Here's the question.
The problem is, sir, that I was drawing large crowds
You've always
4
been
and 5 years ago.
Okay, but the white press didn't notice.
That's right,
okay.
without the press's notice.
Now look, we still got more. I got another statement here. Now, here we go. This is Milton Coleman. You're going to what? You wanted to bring murder to his wife? Now you're going to give me a long speech about how this isn't what you meant? Here's your statement. This is, remember the Coleman thing, Washington Post?
We're going to make an example of Milton Coleman. One day soon we will punish you with death. Because you are interfering with the future of our babies for white people and against the good of yourself and your own people. This is a fitting punishment for such dogs.
And if a woman lie down with this kind of person, that person, the woman, becomes a candidate.
Mr. Donahue.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have certainly cut up that tape. You never kept my words in context
Well, fine.
at all.
Then here,
If I had threatened the life of Milton Coleman, why was I not brought before the courts of law in the United States and punished? That is a punishable offense. I did not threaten his life, and you know that if you listen to that tape.
What was the first line on that tape? He says that you should...
Sir, the way that tape was doctored, you made it to appear as though I said exactly what you proposed that I said.
That. Okay.
I did not say
Here's
that.
the point. Here's the point. This kind of rhetoric jeopardizes babies of all color. It's not consistent with the tradition of Jesus, Muhammad, Martin Luther King. This is bellicose.
All of the prophets, when they spoke, they
So you
issued
are a prophet
threats.
then?
I said all of the prophets. When they spoke, they issued threats and warnings. I think in the role of a teacher, we must look at the condition of black people in this country, the condition of America, and if the country continues in the path that the country is going, all intelligent people see the country going the way of Rome, the way of ancient Babylon, the way of Sodom and Gomorrah. Something has to be done of a positive nature to turn this around.
You know, let's get this in. Who's going to say that we don't have problems? College basketball. Listen, this isn't funny. Now, these young men are innocent. But if corruption has hit the NCAA final teams in the basketball tournament without having yet proved their case, these young men are innocent. Let's get that in. That does not look good for us. General Dynamics on the take. They're building submarines, and the guy who ran the company is hiding now in Greece. General Electric, top 10 Fortune 500. Minister Farrakhan is right when he says we have a problem. The question is whether you're contributing to the possibility of making it worse.
The question is,
You know,
Mr. Donahue,
how many babies are going to be quite literally dead in the crossfire of the prophets?
Mr.
That's
Donahue,
the thing. That's the thing.
The question is, yes, there's corruption. Yes, blacks are suffering.
Yeah.
But what is the solution to the problem? In my judgment, sir, the solution has to revolve around two things. A united front of all black leaders and black organizations to address the problem of black unemployment and black suffering. We are blessed to get out of the economy of the United States this year approximately $204 billion, making us the 12th richest country on earth. I'm talking about black people.
Yes.
With that kind of money redirected into the hands of black people, we could redress our own grievances rather than standing on corners or begging white people to do for us what we should now do for ourselves. That, I believe, is a solution to the problem.
We are in New York City with Minister Farrakhan. We'll give this audience an opportunity, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, I'm glad you waited. Mr. Farrakhan on the line. Hello.
Hello. I want to know why you, a bleeding heart liberal like you, gives an open forum to an anti-Semite bigot like this man, who should be stifled and hung, not given time on the air by somebody like you who's supposed to be a bleeding heart liberal.
Yeah, me?
Yes, you're supposed to be a bleeding heart liberal. You
Yeah.
give an anti-Semite like that airtime
Right.
so that he could have a player platform
Yeah.
to speak from?
Yeah. What will happen as a result of my inviting Mr.
What will happen? You have infuriated a race of people. You have given an open forum to a bigot.
And he shouldn't be allowed on media.
No, I'm not saying stifle all people. Stifle Hitlers that are kept forums, and that's how you have thousands of
don't you
people thrown
think-
into crematoriums.
Yeah, but isn't it useful to know?
We know. We've seen
You
him.
do know.
We've
Oh.
heard him. We've
All right.
heard his...
How
we've
did you
heard him.
know? How do you know?
How do you know? Listen to the man.
Well,
He's
but you
an
wouldn't be able to if I
anti-Semite.
followed
He's
your
also
instructions.
killing
That's the
people.
point. Hold on. I don't feel real comfortable engaging this woman in a verbal joust because I appreciate her feeling. You know, this skirting with dirty religion, gutter religion, hurts deeply, deeply the people who lost loved ones at the hand of using words like great and then trying to explain it. You must have some pang of conscience for inflicting that kind of emotional pain on the people who felt the Holocaust.
I wonder, Mr. Donahue, what pangs of conscience do white people feel for inflicting the atrocities on black people that have been inflicted on us ever since our fathers were brought into
These
this
people
country?
are saying... These white people are saying not guilty.
She's calling me a bigot and a racist and an anti-Semite. Are Arabs Semitic people?
Here comes
Are
the speaker.
Arabs Semitic people? And if Arabs are Semitic people,
so what?
And I am
let's change it.
supposedly pro-Arab, how can I then be anti-Semitic?
How about anti-Jewish?
Are Jews the only Semitic people?
What's your point?
That's a racist statement. For me to be accused of being anti-Semitic,
how would you
that's
feel
a
about?
racist
How do you
statement.
feel about the accusation that you are anti-Jewish?
I am not anti-Jewish. What would make me anti-Jewish? There are 800,000 Jews who do not agree that the state of Israel is the fulfillment of divine prophecy.
And there are several.
Are they anti-Semitic?
And there are several 100,000 Muslims who do not believe you are in any way a spokesman for the Nation of Islam.
But that's
now
fine.
what? Now what?
That's fine.
Well, why isn't it fine? Are you saying that Jews will not be acceptable to you until they all march like wooden soldiers agreeing in...
I didn't say that.
It sounds like
I did
that.
not say that. I said 800,000 Jews agree with my position. Are they anti-Semitic?
All right. Okay. Hang on a moment. Yes, ma'am.
I just have to say that maybe Hitler did some good things, but all one has to do, in your opinion, he may have been great. In my opinion, I'm not Jewish, but I have had the opportunity, and I say opportunity, to go to a concentration camp, and tears will just flow. I don't care what religion you are. It is so sad, the injustices that were done.
I
This
agree.
can't
I
happen
agree with you,
again.
miss.
Okay.
That human suffering is sad no matter who is suffering. We don't control NBC, ABC, and CBS, so our story, the story of the Black Holocaust, has never really been told. Roots did a fairly decent job of trying to tell our story. But if we told our story, like Jews have been able to tell their story, a brass monkey would shed tears over what blacks have suffered in this country.
Mr. Farrakhan, if I understood you correctly, you said a Muslim is one who's committed to do the will of God.
That's correct.
Then I am your sister, and the Jewish race are committed to do the will of God. You have to fight for us, and you have to fight for 97% of the population, and you're not.
May I respectfully say to you, the Quran teaches us that all those that are Jews or Sabians who believe in Allah in the last day, they have their reward with their Lord. I cannot be against a Jew if that Jew believes in God and practices the principles of righteousness. That's what I believe in. So in that sense, you would be my sister in faith. But now, what about the Palestinians who have lost their homeland, who have lost their lives, trying to defend a homeland that is theirs? Some Orthodox Jews say that a Zionist cannot be a Jew and a Jew cannot be a Zionist. So now, is Zionism the real problem and not Jews?
And
what is the problem?
And some Palestinians support Yasser Arafat and some don't. What's the point? Does this mean, therefore, no piece of real estate should ever be granted to them? No piece of real estate should ever be granted or be claimed by Israel?
The real estate that was to be granted to the suffering Jews was to be granted to them on the coming of the Messiah. Those persons that set up the state of Israel were not believers in God.
Okay.
Herzl didn't believe in God.
Right.
He's not a believer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ben Gurion didn't believe in God.
Sir.
So
Reverend
technically they're not Jews.
All right. Okay.
I just have to, no, there's no battle and no speech, but I'm sitting here and listening to this, and I'm getting very upset. You are obviously a very erudite, intelligent, learned man, and you're using that to twist facts. What bothers me is not the Jews and the Catholics or anything. What bothers me is your lack of you are in a position of power, and you're using it in a negative way instead of a positive way. Your lack of responsibility bothers me.
You know, I must...
Let me try here for 1 second. He may not say this, but here's the disquieting part of this. The nice guys don't have any power. And he has more and more people showing up at more and more rallies saying, I've had it. I've had it. I
But
marched,
why?
I sang, we shall overcome, I did
Why?
all that stuff, and look where I am.
Why are they showing up like this? It is because those in positions of power that were white have misused their trust and their responsibility. I am not misusing power. I'm not advocating that blacks riot. I'm not advocating that they stick up. I'm not advocating that they kill white people. I'm not advocating that they break the law. I'm advocating that we unite and pool our resources to change the conditions under which we live. What is so improper about that responsible use of power?
Okay. What's improper is the fact that you're not saying directly, you didn't say you were going to kill Coleman directly, but by using inflammatory words, you are creating an image. That's the point.
I think you have a responsibility.
The television created the image.
Mr. Farrakhan, I've heard an awful lot about this power movement. Would you explain what that means in detail so that the public...
And just a little detail. It's an hour.
Well, power is an acronym that stands for people organized and working for economic rebirth. We do not believe, sir, that black people should continue to depend on whites to do for us what we should be doing for ourselves. We believe that a lot of the responsibility must rest firmly on our own shoulders. We should turn that production power back into our own hands, build our own schools, our own factories, employ our own people. This would make a stronger black people. It would make a stronger America if blacks were allowed to do so.
Is the caller there? Hi.
Yes, I am.
I don't have a lot of time. Go ahead.
Phil?
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to make a statement in reference to your guest today. He is the most hypocritical call of himself a minister, sitting up there with his bodyguards. If he's so godly and holy, why did he need bodyguards? Also, he was the downfall of Reverend Jesse Jackson with his big mouth.
Well, I thank you for your call, ma'am. The Pope has bodyguards, and he is His Holiness. So if the Pope can have his, and the President can have his, and the Mayor can have his, in a society like this, when people disagree with your position, they will take your life. I think it's an act of wisdom on my part to watch while others pray. Now, as far as Reverend Jackson is concerned, most whites didn't agree that he didn't have a chance in the beginning. So I could not have been a downfall to a man that you never gave a chance to become a black president of the United States. So my words were used to hurt Reverend Jackson because this country was not ready to see a true rainbow coalition of black, brown, red, yellow, and white people who are interested in changing the political landscape of this country.
And
I would welcome that. Yes, I would.
You would welcome what? I'm sorry. You would? You would like to see a rainbow?
I would like to see a rainbow coalition, and I would like to see Mr. Farrakhan's bodyguards in it, and I would like to see these Jewish ladies in it, and I would like to see it really happen. But I don't think it's going to happen with the rhetoric that you're using. I don't think it's not productive.
And what would you say to the people who say it's not happening when we, with the people who don't make us angry?
I think it happened. I think Jesse Jackson was making it happen.
You know, let me just a real good example. The Klan membership is apparently, we have a lot of people scared out there. And I mean, they've got kids with the little uniforms and that will get larger if white people don't condemn it.
That's right.
All right.
Right.
Now, in the age at this moment in the history of our republic, with Clarence Pendleton, we don't want any quotas, with everybody claiming to have a brother-in-law who didn't get a job because a black guy got it, with unemployment being as high as it is, in an age like this, it's easier not to say anything.
I happen to be one of the people that say something.
It sounds like you do. But how do you feel about what I'm saying?
I feel there should be quotas, and I feel that I feel that the white race owes the black race a lot. I'm one of these people that feels that that's the way life is. Life is.
Okay.
You pay for the mistakes of your ancestors, and you have to accept it. That is life.
But you are in the minority on that position.
Nevertheless, I mean, where did I come from? Where does my opinion come from? It comes from listening to people like Jesse Jackson, not from listening to people like this guy.
What troubles you most about his rhetoric? What is it that troubles you most?
I think it's counterproductive. He polarizes people instead of bringing them together.
Yes.
May I please
Sure.
respond? You know, black folk need to be brought together.
Black people, yes.
We need to be brought together so that our moral voice can be heard in this country. It's wonderful to talk about blacks and whites together, but Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. So neighbor love is predicated on self-love. You will agree with me that the black community is destructive of itself.
And
somebody needs to teach black people to love themselves, to love each other, to come into unity with
Right.
each other.
So,
Wait just a minute.
And
just
calling
a minute.
Judaism a dirty religion enhances
I never
that?
said that. There again,
All right.
Mr. Donahue, you are repeating
Okay.
the lies that have been told about
All
me.
right.
Miss, let me
All
say
right.
this. If the white American public had a chance, and this is why I enjoy being on your show, Mr. Donahue, because it does give me a chance to express myself before the American public. You get a chance to hear me and to see me and to reason with me. And if we could set aside what the press has said, you listen to what I say and judge what I say, then
Yeah.
will your judgment be the same?
But that's what everybody in power says. If it weren't for the press, all my speeches would be reported in entirety and you would know what wisdom I have. That is not the way the system is ever going to work.
This system is not designed
All
to
right.
work like
Okay.
that. It's true.
We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, I'm glad you waited. Go ahead.
Mr. Donahue, at the onset of the show, you inflamed your white audience by describing the men accompanying Reverend Farrakhan as intimidating. They appear to be gentlemanly to me. But anytime a black man speaks out against injustices perpetrated against us by white people, there's something wrong with him. And you've helped to contribute to that attitude by suggesting that these men who are with Reverend Farrakhan are somehow intimidating and fierce-looking.
Well, they are intimidating.
They're not.
You don't think he's intimidating?
No, I do not think they're intimidating. They are doing
Are the
job
Secret
they're supposed
Service
to do,
intimidating?
But they certainly don't look
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are the Secret Service intimidating? Are the police intimidating?
All right.
Well, what kind of society do we live in then?
Yeah, don't miss her point, though. She's saying, so she feels this is a white media attempt to what? Trivialize the guest?
Not only that, if any time a black man speaks out against the injustices perpetrated against us by whites, there's somehow the meaning that they're somehow diminished. What the purpose is diminished by suggesting that these men are they're fearful.
No. I understand your point. I think your point should be considered. I truly do. Minister Farrakhan, thanks you for your support. You will not be upset with this bleeding heart white liberal if I call your attention to the fact Louis Farrakhan is, as I said, drawing larger and larger crowds, and boy, I'll tell you this, you're getting right up there with all those TV evangelists. You got stuff to sell now. And that's legal here in America. But how do we know you're not a Billy Sunday? And not to mention, you know, we've had an awful lot of terrible things happen in the name of the Lord down through the years, the most recent of which might be entitled the Jim Jones escapade. Now, I'm not here to suggest that you're capable of that kind of behavior, Minister Farrakhan, but you will not be upset with me for saying that folks like you have a responsibility to retain some humility and not presume that you are the possessor of absolute truth, and to reach out, perhaps, for a dialogue, something that your rhetoric does not promote.
I would be very glad to have a dialogue. In fact, I asked for a dialogue with the Jewish leadership of the B'nai B'rith. They denied that. Sir, with all due respect to you, the popes are supposed to be infallible.
Yeah.
But history tells us they made many, many mistakes and were responsible for a lot of wrongdoing.
Something that's been called to the attention of our audience here on more than a few occasions.
So when a black person stands up and gathers thousands of black people to listen to him, automatically whites fear. Why do you fear? It is because you feel a guilt. And that guilt is that one day blacks are going to repay whites for the evil that they poured on us. That's why you don't want a black person to be a strong black leader.
Yeah, I'm concerned about a statement you made at the beginning of the show as far as religion goes. Each one that has their own religion follows their God. Why would you even question what a Jew is when they follow their God? The same as you follow your God and I follow mine.
What I'm questioning is not one's right to follow one's God. I'm questioning a practice of injustice that has deprived Palestinians of their homeland and deprived blacks and Indians of justice in the United States. All the people that deprive us claim to be religious.
But you don't promote. Incidentally, you're not alone, as you must know, in your feeling about that agony. You don't promote the possibility of peace by using words like great to describe Hitler. I still can't believe that you in your heart think there's something promoting the general welfare embodied in that kind of rhetoric.
Sir,
I don't think you believe that.
Again, you know, you are an intelligent man, Mr. Donahue. You know the dictionary. You know the word great. You know what it means. You know the colloquial meaning. And the colloquial meaning is not the actual meaning of the word. So
Yes.
when I said Hitler was great, that meant he was consequential.
Yeah.
And your
And
esteemed writers say that the beginning of political acumen today is the study of Adolf Hitler. I didn't say that.
But
Mr. Wills said that.
I thank you for the compliment, and I
welcome.
want to say that anybody with your education and abilities and gifts who is consistently, chronically misunderstood by the majority of people is doing so purposely. You are either selling tickets to your next rally, or you are purposely trying to enrage those against whom you feel you have these...
Mr. Donahue, with all due respect, I think that's a rather mischief-making statement in that you accuse the victim of the crime. Now, just a minute. If the press gave an accurate distillation of my words to the American people, I would have nothing to say. But the press misrepresented what I said, and you continue to do the same thing.
I mean, he asked a question. He said, Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. And in another breath, he says, terrorism is in the eyes of the beholder. I want to know what your idea of terrorism is.
Well, first, let me say this, that, you know, it's easy to talk about love. But what is love? If you don't give freedom, justice, and equality, you cannot love. If black people are in America and we've given our sweat and our blood to maintain and build this country and to defend it, and we have not yet acquired real freedom, real justice, real equality, then the hypocrites who continue to say, what is love, or you should love, have not loved themselves.
Over here.
Now,
You wanted to make... Sir, hold on.
The program of black people using their resources to rebuild themselves, how can one know more about that and get more involved with that? That's a positive thought.
I think they should
buy the cassettes, the albums.
They should.
That's all right.
They should call an 800 number 1-800-43 and power, and they'll find out all about how we can pool our resources to change the conditions.
What's the number again?
1-800-43 power.
All right.
I would hope that you all would call it.
Yeah.
I was not an ardent supporter of Minister Farrakhan, but in light of the Reagan administration and everything that's been going on in the past 4 or 5 years, to me, Minister Farrakhan has become the castor oil that I think this racist America needs in order to begin to clean us out, because the problem is, the reason that so much opposition is to what Minister Farrakhan says is because it hits to the core, and he's throwing out some statements that hurt, and people are feeling guilty about them. And what happened is...
Doesn't it trouble you that he uses other people's oppression? He manipulates it, and through confused rhetoric seems to almost forgive it, when in fact you and I know, and so does he, that those people who were victimized, for example, in the Holocaust, were victimized by the same kind of fear, hatred, and psychotic behavior that you feel as oppressed people of color all these years. Now, why do that? Why use someone else's agony to try and get attention for your own?
Whose language?
No, we're not using someone else's agony. We're using our own agony.
That's right.
Black folk are agonizing in America, not because of Adolf Hitler, but because of Reagan administration, because of former administration's inactivity to solve the problem of justice for black people.
And the other point is that white America wants us to use their language of oppression, and if we talk the way white America feels, then it's okay, but as soon as we start talking from our black perspective, then all of a sudden it's racist.
And do you know why this is, sister? You know why this is? Yeah. Because most whites actually still feel that they're in the position of the slave master and we're the slave. Just a minute. If that were not so, don't I have the right to invite Mr. Gaddafi or any other African leader, and don't we have the right to listen to what they say, accept or reject what they have to say? Why do I have to apologize to white people for acting as a free black man? I am not your slave.
How do you feel? Let me get this one more in. Let me try it. How do you feel about Ronald Reagan?
You know, I feel that Ronald Reagan is a blessing in disguise to black people.
Tell me how. Tell me. Briefly.
Because Ronald Reagan is one of those winds that will get the dry bones in the valley together. If it were not for government rejection of handouts, blacks would still be looking to white people to do something for us.
That's his position.
Exactly.
And you agree with it?
I agree with that position.
So government
I want to see black people do for themselves.
So all those food stamps, wait a minute. All those food stamp programs, all that do-good stuff, all that New Deal, Great Society, Johnson, Bleeding Heart, liberal government handouts, crippled black people.
Exactly. Exactly.
So did you vote for President Reagan in the last?
No, I did not.
You should have.
I did not vote.
You should have.
I did not.
But
I feel that the more Mr. Reagan continues these kinds of policies, the more black people will be forced to rely on themselves. It's one thing to say to America, you've been bad to us. All right. But it's another thing to also say on the other side, look at the blessings we've gotten out of America. We have gotten good education. We have $204 billion purchasing power, which we squander away in riotous living. We need to pull together all black leaders around the serious question of getting black folk to use the resources that we have gained in America to better ourselves. And if we did that, Mr. Donahue, the racist attitude of whites in the country would diminish because they would see black people for the first time in a self-respecting position.
And we'll be back in just a minute. Yes, ma'am.
Minister Farrakhan, what are the international implications of power?
The international implications are that black folk, once we become producers of what we consume, we become a trading partner with other third world peoples that strengthens their rise, our rise, and we can leverage that economic power into political power to redirect the course of this nation.
Over here, please.
How did you feel when even Jesse Jackson had to repudiate you?
I felt that Reverend Jackson is my brother. He had to do that. He was forced to do that. Up to this point, we still have a very warm, brotherly, and friendly relationship.
Over here, please.
I just wanted to say I'd never seen either of you before, and I haven't been able to disagree with anything that the guest has said today.
I just have a question. I'd like to know why everything is black and white. Why can't everybody work together to do this? You just want the blacks here and the whites here and everybody at each other.
No,
that seems to be your position through the whole show.
I appreciate your spirit, and that is that you want black and white to work together. Unfortunately, the society has created a problem that we believe black people have to unite to solve our own problem. Then we can work together with whites to solve other problems.
Over here, please. I want to know how come there's all this fighting and everything, all in the name of God.
Yeah, I want to know that too.
You know, God is always on the side of the oppressed against the oppressor. Historically, it's always been that way. We are an oppressed people. God is on our side. What? He's against the oppressor.
Why are you the cause of oppression with what you're saying today?
Pardon me?
Please, going back to the anti-Semitic remarks, and
Am
please don't get into a semantic conversation where you're going to try to change your words around and tell us that what you said wasn't what you meant.
Miss,
I don't care for a lot of the things this man has said, but he has made a statement that makes sense to me. Start your own schools, start your own factories, and leave us alone. Fight your own way out of oppression.
I like that.
Are you applauding that?
You know, I must say,
you'll pardon the white liberals back, but hang on just a second.
Okay.
Once we've already got this, if we don't learn. If you're going to have black here and white here, sooner or later somebody's going to go to the wrong convenience store. Somebody's going to have consumed a six-pack. Somewhere during the night, the word nigger will be heard, then the word honky, and there goes the whole neighborhood. That's the whole point of the effort that we are, however imperfectly...
I'm very sorry, Mr. Donahue, to disagree. I don't think that's what this lady wanted at all. Blacks are already living separately, but we don't profit from our separateness. We should build up our own community. Yeah. We should do all of these things, and then your people will have more respect for black people because black people will be showing a measure of self-respect.
All right.
I am tired of having to take the guilt for what my ancestors did with the slaves 200 years ago.
The only thing that disturbs me is these people are white, these people are black. We're all the same people. If there is a God, we're all going to see him. And I don't think there's one for the white, one for the black, one for the Jewish. That's it. That's my speech.
I would like to say...
Yes, I don't have time. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
Would claim one father.
With a life expectancy outside of New York State, call 800-DRAKE-NY. In New York State, call 212-421-0900.
What's Satan's work and what's God's work?
The law has decided. God has set down the law, and once you find